Ay, 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 what is going on? Dang it. Never heard of them. You have no idea what you're talking about. Well, we've been wanting to do this again for a long time. Sitting here with my guy, Jerry, my best friend growing up, my best friend today.
Just today. Hey,
today.
everybody.
Today
we're best friends today.
Yeah, we're in the middle school. Tomorrow he won't be.
Yep, we had T-shirts made.
Right. Tomorrow I won't like him, and I'll talk about him on Snapchat to somebody else.
Perfect.
We haven't got a chance to do one because we both work in education. We both get super busy in May. Starting in April, May is insane. August and May are the 2 months that are like the craziest. I think
Off limits.
Right. So we've talked about this, and finally now here, almost July, we're getting around to it. So we're hoping to do a number of them before we go back to school. So we've got a little bit of time. We really enjoyed doing 1982.
Yep.
It was fun. We got some good response on social media about it. It got, quite a few listens. And so we decided, let's get together this week sometime and put together 1987. And here's how I chose 87. Anyone that knows you well, I would say your top 5 favorite groups, I would assume in that top 5 are The Cult.
Yes.
And Guns N' Roses.
Correct.
So I know you, and anytime I think of Guns N' Roses, I think automatically of Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah.
And it, oddly enough, came out in 87.
Yes.
Even though it really didn't gain a lot of traction until into 88, and even in my senior year, 89.
Yep. I didn't hear it till probably 89.
Yeah, and it's funny when you think of that, though, because it's really popular. It wasn't like it was an underground thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent early, but I was thinking of this morning when I went and got groceries, that, remember my senior will, I take a shot at Guns N' Roses and my senior will.
Oh, because I would have never, because of the person that first brought it to town, I'm not going to name them on here, but was somebody that were like, oh, I'm not listening to anything that idiot listens to. So I never even gave him a chance. I hated them right away without even hearing them.
Well, and for me, being me, they were getting compared to Led Zeppelin. Well, that's blasphemy when you were me as a senior.
Right.
So anyway, long story, but 87 Guns N' Roses, and I thought that's a good year because that's a year that, has an album that really means something to you, and I like it as well. It's on my list. But that's why we went with that year. So if you were wondering how do you go from 82 to 87, that's how you go from 82 to 87.
Well, it's a big difference because in 82 I was 10, and I didn't really start listening to music seriously till I was probably 12. So a lot of that is back listening. And 87, even though it's only 5 years in our lifetime, doesn't sound big. But in 87, I'm a freshman in high school. So like the spring of 87, and it's funny how in high school, how massively different it is. Because the year 87, you think, oh, what a great year. Well, it's split into two because half of 87 or a third of 87 is the spring of my freshman year and your sophomore year.
Right.
My brother's class is in school. The climate of the school is completely different that spring than it is that fall. Right?
100%.
And then you've got your summer break, which as a kid is a huge chunk. And for us, it goes by so fast. But so what happened in the spring, what happened in the summer, and what life was like in the fall as a junior or as a sophomore is completely different.
It's funny that you're saying all of this because, and I'm not just saying it because we're on here. It's exactly what I was thinking this morning.
Me too.
When I was driving home and thinking of how we would get into it, and then just listening to you talk now, I had a couple high school girls the last day of school ask me, they're freshmen getting ready to be sophomores, and they're like, we're going to hang out with you for a while because we got our finals done. And they were like, what was the best year of high school for you? And it makes, we grew up in a small place, and I said my freshman year, maybe because of all of the people ahead of me that I got along with and were cool. And the sophomore year was the same kind of thing, what you were just saying. Mm-hmm. Your brother was a senior. Bobette and Adri are a couple of the coolest
Yep.
people I know. My cousin Matt is like the only brother that I ever had that wasn't my brother. I mean,
Steve Shutter, I'm still friends with today.
right.
I mean, we sit and name drop people that were in that class, but my freshman year was probably my worst high school year.
Right.
That's because I don't want to get too into details, but I hadn't hit puberty yet.
Right.
My brother's class picked on me.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I remember the locker room. Mercilessly, and that's where I got I had no tan. I got the nickname Casper. It was a long year.
And those are things you're going to remember, and music from that time. That's what I was thinking today. That's why music means more to me. And I've said if I had to give up watching sports, I would instantly do it if it meant I wouldn't lose out on music, because it takes you back, because there's things on this list that take me back to that year and things I was going through when we were listening to those things. And I got my driver's license that year. I remember that. That's a big deal to you. And, I got that in March of 1987.
You remember the first song you listened in the car when you drove home?
For my birthday, I got the Cars Greatest Hits. That was one of the cassettes that I got, which, that's not an album from that year. But I just remember getting that, and I remember, I drove my dad's truck back to the school. Well, it didn't have it had just an FM, AM radio, so I couldn't even listen to it when I was driving. And we had play practice that day, and I remember driving into Table Grove to get snacks, because that's what we always did, and then come back to the school for play practice. But we could sit here and talk memories from that all day long. And I think that's why when I look at this list, at least my list, and I'm sure when you name things on yours, that takes you right back to that year.
Yeah, because there's stuff on here that takes me back to that time. There's stuff that's discovered after that I've fallen in love with later, but absolutely.
My list specifically, other than my number 10, every one of them is something I owned at some point during that window, maybe except for 2. Maybe 8 and 10 are the only ones. So, okay, there's your setup. Here we go. My podcast, so you have to go first.
Okay. Well, we're doing our
10.
No, short list isn't our.
We'll do that at the end. We'll do honorable mention at
honorable
the end.
mention at the end.
Let's
all
do
right.
Honorable mention after
so,
we get through it.
all right. Well, you're gonna crap, and you're gonna know I never owned this album back then. But number 10 for me is Whitney Houston's "Whitney," and I know you're just gonna make fun of me, but do you know what's on this album? And to me, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna throw this out there, and people can argue with me. In my lifetime, the greatest female singers in the world was when I was little, Aretha Franklin. When Whitney Houston came along for however many years, 20 years, it was Whitney Houston, and now it's Adele. And I absolutely love and appreciate Whitney Houston. So you've got I Want to Dance with Somebody, Didn't We Almost Have It All, So Emotional, For the Love of You, Where Do Broken Hearts Go. So, and that bumped out, when we get done, when you see what it bumped out of the top 10, you might be like, that's not right, but I don't care.
The funny thing about you mentioning, I have some text from my dear friend Caleb, the high school kid I talk about, who I've recorded episodes with. He got on a big Whitney Houston kick, and we were arguing about, I say how great Madonna is, and he was going back and forth with me because Prince and Madonna did stuff together. Like I'm just arguing to be arguing. Not that I would ever do that.
No.
But
You didn't expect to hear that from me today, did you?
No, that's not true. I 100% thought that would be in your top
really?
10.
Okay.
And because I'm not a fan. Those songs are good. Those are good songs. It's not on my top 10 or my top 15.
Well, clearly there's something wrong with you. But go ahead.
There's a lot wrong with me. Well, you'll be happy with my number 10. My number 10 is something that I did not know what it was when I was 15 and 16 years old, but I've learned to love it since. It's an album called Electric by The Cult. That's my number 10. Peace Dog is a great song. That's one of my favorite Cult songs. I was listening to it this morning kind of just to remind myself. Love Removal Machine is a good song too. I like that. I like some covers, but I'm not a big fan of like Born to Be
Yeah,
Wild.
no,
Yeah,
that's.
I wondered when I listened to it. I
It's
bet you
it's so out of place.
right,
And I don't even. If I skip something, I skip that.
right.
So weird that they did that. But
Yeah, and it's like it's funny because it's like just out in the open on the album too a little bit. But I mean, I got started on them, and I don't even know if it was because of you guys, you and your brother and Chad, because I mean, when Sonic Temple came out, I listened to that a lot. I don't know if I ever owned it, but I really liked that. So that was my introduction to them later on. And then I kind of worked my way back, and they're a good group if you've never listened to The Cult and you like rock and roll type music, because it's not grunge, I don't think. It's more rock.
It's not heavy metal. It's not grunge. Just kind of bluesy rock.
Yeah, I really like it. And Ian Astbury, the lead singer's got a cool voice, and
It's different. So. Billy Duffy's an excellent guitar player. They had Matt Sorum on drums for a while, which played for Guns N' Roses and his Velvet Revolver. Here's a funny. I saw Plastic Green Army Men.
Shout out to Bobette.
Yeah, to Bobette, who we were just talking about earlier. And one of the songs they used to do, Plastic Green Army Men back in the day, I don't know if the guy plays guitar, but one of the members of the band would sing. He'd do a Candlebox song. I can't remember if he did You or Far Behind, but he was always amazing at it. And they always did Peace Dog, which is a not like a widely known song by The Cult, which happens to be one of my favorite. So that they didn't do it in industry last week, but it was good to see saw Kim Frost. I haven't seen her since high school.
I saw when Bobette posted that. I didn't realize that was going on. I saw that.
I don't know why I didn't tell you, but we had just got back from the Dominican. Then I went to Springfield for 2 days and came back and went to that.
Yeah, I saw it after. I saw it the next morning, and I thought, I bet that'd have been pretty cool, because I know she had said that a lot of people there. It was nice to see, catch up with people and stuff. So
it was funny. I think maybe Trent Robertson, Jason Danner, and me were the only people that were a little bit younger that were there. Everybody was Joe, Donner, Kelly's class age, kind of. Plastic Green Army Man still really rocks, you guys.
Every time she posts about it, I'm like, we need to. She and I, Rhonda and I, need to go watch them. We need to do that. I really do.
Charlie's son plays drum for him part of the time, and I got to meet him recently and talk to him, and he's in a Metallica cover band also. Really cool guy. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna get off topic.
So you're number 9.
My number 9. So my number 9 is the Joshua Tree. And I'm not a huge U2 fan, but this is an absolute banger album. Like, to me, I think it's their best album, and it's a great album. It's number 9. So that's the thing about 87 that we were talking about before we turned the mic on. It's such a deep year. Like, there's albums that I'm leaving out of the top 10 that I just like, I can't believe that's not in the top 10. But this one, great album.
I won't say anything about the Joshua Tree right now, because we did this when we talked 82. I will get to it, my feelings about it, when I get to it. We'll say this, it's definitely on my list. It's definitely great album cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just, I will get to the Joshua Tree when I get to the Joshua Tree. My number 9, if you would have told 15, 16-year-old me that I would have this in my top 10 when I was 53 years old, I would say, you're an idiot. I remember coming home from dates with Rhonda, and this would have been even a couple years down the road. Again, we talked about how music, sometimes the hits don't hit until later. I remember going into the kitchen and turning the TV on when you're getting a snack when you got home from your girlfriend's house before you went to bed at midnight or whatever. And Friday Night Videos was on, so it may not have been midnight, whatever. But George Michael's Faith is my number 9.
Wow.
I would have never picked that. I mean, we kind of mocked Wham when I did when I was a kid, and now I love some of those songs.
Yeah.
I still don't like Wake Me Up Before You Go. So I wasn't, you weren't.
Deadpool made him cool.
Yeah, I liked it before Deadpool.
Yeah.
I had the 45 of Everything She Wants, which that's Wham, but I don't want to get into it too much, but you were kind of judgy when you were in high school, and you weren't if you were a George Michael fan, I wasn't good about that. Let's say it that way.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it yesterday at work, and start out with Faith, and then and Dana Carvey did a great job making fun of George Michael, with the whole butt thing, and look at my butt. I mean, that was such a funny skit, but that song's really freaking good. And then Father Figure, and then it goes into I Want Your Sex. And the funny thing about that song is it was pretty racy at the time, but musically, like towards the end when it kind of changes the tone of the music, not the lyrics, it's actually a really good music song. One More Try's on there. The song Monkey, as I look down through, that was the one I remember coming on.
Yeah.
It would come on Friday night videos, and I still to this day, I'm like, I'm not probably listening to that.
No.
But those first 3 songs really hit hard. And that was a huge album, and he had gone from being in this band with he and Andrew Ridgeley, and Chad, our friend, loves him, and George Michael's voice is amazing. Amazing.
Yep. I didn't even consider that on my short list, and I probably should have.
All right.
So what are we on?
Let's go on to your number 8.
Number 8. All right. So you might be surprised that this is as low as it is, but Prince's Sign of the Times is probably my 3rd favorite Prince album. And I'm a Prince fan, but I'm a very generation-specific Prince fan. This didn't get a lot of love for me at the time. But I really, in the last 10 years, have really listened to it a lot more. And he's got a song on there called The Cross that, it's amazing. I'm sure this is on your list later, so we'll save talking about it a little bit.
Well, oddly enough, it's number 8 on my list.
Wow.
And so I guess we can stay on it for a minute. Purple Rain is Purple Rain. Like major hits, Purple Rain's something different.
It's a 10.
Right. I mean, it's like I put the other, 2 days ago, it was the 40th anniversary of it coming out. It's not even overstating it. It's in another realm. And then, so when Around the World in a Day came out with Raspberry Beret and Pop Life, it seemed like a step back because you're comparing it to the greatest thing of, one of the greatest things of all time. When you listen to Sign of Times, it's all over the place. It's when he's really starting to just go, screw it, you're getting whatever
I want to do. Yep.
I mean, it's not controversy. It's not Dirty Mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it's not the others. It's not 1999. It's you're going to get Starfish and Coffee.
Yeah.
And either you won't like it or you're not going to like it. And I like it.
Right.
Now, there are some things on there that when I've listened through it, not as much of a fan of it, but like Sign of the Times clearly was a hit. The Ballad of Dorothy Parker, when I was listening to this yesterday, like that's a cool Prince song. You're 100% right on The Cross. Hot Thing is an awesome Prince song.
Yep.
You Got the Look. I love Sheena Easton. Like
Yep. That's a great one.
He would always collaborate with the coolest people. They were probably cooler because of him. If I Was Your Girlfriend, I Could Never Take the Place of Your Mate. Like, there are some really good, not hits on there, but also songs like Adore, The Cross, and the ones that I've mentioned.
Yeah. It's really good. It's not one that I listen to completely straight through.
Yeah. Because
it's also got 16 songs.
It was a double album.
Yep.
And it's a little beer and coffee at times. It's an acquired taste. Like some of it may not be exactly what you like, but
some of it's tab.
But he is still arguably the GOAT because of the fact that he could do something like that and you still enjoy it. So both of us number 8 with Sign of the Times by Prince. You're number 7.
My number 7 is Kick by NXS. And I owned this and listened to the crap out of it. And I used to hate the song Devil Inside, so I always skipped it. I used to make fun of it to Chad. Chad liked NXS more than me. But But all jokes aside, I love this album, start to finish. It's so good, so good.
Yeah, it's on my list. I will. I won't get into it again. We'll do the thing where I won't talk about it twice. But yeah, it 100% needs to be in your top 10.
New Sensation, Need You Tonight, Mediate, Never Tear Us Apart, Mystify, Devil Inside. That's unreal that all of those are on one album.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's something else.
All right. I'll let you talk about it later.
Okay, so number 7 on my list is Fleetwood Mac's Tango in the Night. I had this on cassette. I think I got it for Christmas of that year, so it would have been at the end of '87. Big Love is a great song. Seven Wonders is a great song. I don't know if you remember that one. Minor hit.
No, Seven Wonders has moved up it's in my jukebox now. It's become one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs.
Such a good
and
song.
I love that video.
Yep, such a good song.
Yeah, this didn't make my short list either.
And then Everywhere, which has been in a commercial recently, which is the song I loved the most back when we were kids. Tango in the Night, which is the title track. It wasn't a hit, but it's a great song. And Little Lies, great song. Another song called Family Man. And again, did I have this in the wrong year? I'm going to go back and look at my list because I might have had it in the wrong. Go ahead. Keep talking. Family Man was another one that I mentioned. There's a song called When I See You Again, which is a really great Stevie Nicks voice song. And then the last song on it, it's got 12 tracks. It's You and I Part 2. I don't know why it's Part 2, but I was listening to this yesterday. It's just, I've said, I think I'm sure I said in our 82 one, I was the king of fast forwarding, rewinding, and not listening to everything.
Yep.
And this is one of those things. I listened to all of it, and I don't regret it. It is a fantastic album.
Yeah, it is. I'm adding it. I don't know how I missed that. Not that it wouldn't have been in my top 10, but it should have been listened to in the last couple of days and considered.
Yeah, it's a really good album.
Jeez.
If you like Fleetwood Mac and you haven't listened to all of Tango in the Night, and here's the funny thing too, I bring up Caleb, the kid that just graduated. He and I love it. That's one thing I love about him is the kid's 17 years old, and this is an album that's number 7 on mine, and we talk about it all the time. And another person who graduated in 2013, who's on the state championship team, who I'm going to do a podcast with in July, he loves this album too. It's like, this is one of those that you connect to it regardless of whether you're our age or not. And not because they're masterpieces necessarily, but gosh darn it, those songs are good. They got some good songs.
Yeah, I wish I'd have listened to it back in the day because I would have had... I discovered Fleetwood Mac later.
Right.
I wasn't listening to it back then.
Yeah, really good.
All right, so we're at number 6.
You're number 6.
All right, Momentary Lapse of Reason, the first Pink Floyd album after Roger Waters was gone. And if you know me, you know my brother, we're big Roger Waters fans, but we're not David Gilmour haters. We don't treat it like politics or baseball. You got to pick a team and be on it. I love Roger Waters. I love some of the solo stuff he does. This album, for him not being involved, it just tells you how good Pink Floyd was, that these guys on their own are so unbelievable. But Signs of Life, Learning to Fly, The Dogs of War, One Slip, then you get to On the Turning Away. God, and it just keeps going. So I'll let Tony talk more about it later. He's a bigger Pink Floyd fan than I am. But On the Turning Away is in... I have an ever-changing list of my top 25 songs, something that I keep, and On the Turning Away's been on that list for 25 years.
Well, yeah, sounds funny. You're right. Yes, I am. Pink Floyd is my favorite band. Pink Floyd is my number 1 band every year at the end of the year when Spotify tells me it is. And I remember you having the poster in your room of the cover of it, because it's a great cover. They were really good at covers. They took a break, which has nothing to do with the music, but it did add.
I love that poster, that album cover.
It just did add to what made them great. Yeah, I'll get into it later, but yes, 100% one of the greatest, one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah. So now I mean, and that's number 6. Again, it's a good year. It was a good year.
It was a great year. I mean, the top six, honestly, I said this before we started. I don't know.
I can't wait to see your face on a couple of mine because you're not going to believe it. I don't think.
I'm not. I'm probably not. But of my top 7, including what we just did, Fleetwood Mac, I've listened to these a lot, and they have a lot of memories in them. And we're at 25 minutes. So if you're listening, we used to worry about this. I don't. You can pause it. It's not like you got to listen to it straight through. And we take this, we love this stuff, but I'm going to keep going. Number 6 is almost blasphemy to me that it's this low, but that's what I think of the things above it. Appetite for Destruction is number 6 on my list. I knew you'd be like, you're an idiot. You're a dum-dum.
I don't know about that.
You're a dum-dum.
No.
I
would never say such a horrible thing to you, but you're pretty stupid.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty dumb. No, because you're gonna flip it over onto me here in a minute.
Okay, so here's the thing, and we talked about it a minute ago. When I was a kid, 17 years old, and people were telling me that Guns N' Roses was Led Zeppelin, that was the dumbest thing I had ever heard. There was no way. And again, if you know what a senior will in your yearbook is, I wish I would have got it out. I actually have it at school. For some reason, I'd taken it to show a kid a picture. And it was something to the effect of, I was willing to the 7th grade class the ability to realize that Guns N' Roses is not the greatest band of all time. Which, in context, what were they doing that would make me, they couldn't have had a ton of T-shirts. You couldn't find T-shirts.
You were angry about it.
Well, and I have
but that was in '89 though.
Yeah,
it's a couple years later.
Yeah, it's true. But still, I was still thinking that. Anyway, let's.
Anyway,
here's how I came.
The mistakes of our youth.
Here's how I came to appreciate this album. I became a big Chili Peppers fan in the early '90s, 1991. Mother's Milk had a song on it where somewhere, I don't even remember the name of it now, Pretty Little Ditty, I think it's called. And at some point towards the end of it, it plays the riff from Sweet Child of Mine. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've got to give this another chance, basically because Anthony and Flea said I had to because it was in Chili Peppers. And I went and started listening to it. And that's when I'm like, yeah, you were an idiot. You were wrong. It's really good. So Welcome to the Jungle of the main songs is probably my least favorite. I like it less than I like It's So Easy. I like it less than Out to Get Me. I like it less than Mr. Brownstone. I like it less than Paradise City. I like it less than Sweet Child of Mine. I like it less than You're Crazy.
Wow.
And I'm not saying it's a bad song. I just mean in terms of that's how good the album is and how it's silly and how it was silly to drop it down this low. But
it might be on my list later, so I'm not going to say very much.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't, and I expect you not to. And then Rocket Queen is such a great song, too. I mean, that's a fantastic album that 17, 18-year-old Tony Wherley was just oblivious and stupid about and has no trouble admitting it all these years later. So that was my number 6.
All right. Well, I can't believe this album's not been on your list so far, so maybe it's coming. But my number 5 is Whitesnake's self-titled album. Okay. Dude, I'm not a fan of people that have self-titled albums and it's not their first album. Maybe that's because Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath did it, and then how's your third or fourth album your self-titled? I don't know. It always that bugs me, but the album Crying in the Rain, Bad Boys, Still the Night, Here I Go Again, Give Me All of Your Love, Is This Love, and then the rest of the way, that album, gosh, that's a banger album front to back. Memories.
Yep.
I mean, I'll let you talk about it later.
Yep.
Unless it's your number 5.
Yep. It's not, but yep. It's something else. When I get to it, I'll put it this way. I'll say this now and repeat it. It goes, for me personally, 9 in a row. I think it has 12, 11, 12 songs on it. The first 9, kill it. Kill it. So, yes,
Okay.
it's coming up. It's coming up. All right, number 5 on my list, and I've needed to be doing this when I was saying these earlier, and I haven't been doing it, but I'll start it now because I swiped away from my spreadsheet. My number 5, I feel like it's too low too, but I don't know, just like Appetite was. Hysteria from Def Leppard is my number 5. I got 8 songs on it that are in my favorite songs playlist. I remember buying the cassette at either Phoenix or Rockin' Robins, and I remember driving around. I think I put this on social media within the last year. I remember blaring it on my terrible stereo in that god-awful phlegm-colored car that I had. And I just love this. Like, the songs on it that I love, you could play the song Hysteria right now, and I'm going to just rock out to that like I did when I was a kid. It's just that it's not as good as Pyromania was. It wasn't Pyromania. And I love Def Leppard. I've got, in my favorite songs playlist, I got Rocket. I got Animal. I mean, Pour Some Sugar on Me is like, you could, it's just one of them songs. Hey, we're at a wedding reception. Let's go.
I can tell you, that is a song that puts me in a moment in time when we're on our way to Passing League in Macomb.
Right.
And it's 99 degrees out. And Chad's got his dad's Monte Carlo with the T-tops down, and we're blaring Pour Some Sugar on Me, and we're at the stoplight next to Hardee's, and it goes red light, yellow light, green light, go, and we're idiots.
Right.
I mean, but I'm going to tell you, embarrassingly enough, this didn't make my top 10. Yeah, it's a short list album for me, but it was in and then it was out.
Right. Because for me, like I said, Rocket, Animal, and Love Bites is a big hit, but that's not one of them. That's not one of the songs I count. Pour Some Sugar on Me, Armageddon. There's a song called Gods of War. It's like a political type thing. So you can actually hear George Bush Sr. in the background of it. But it's a good song. I don't care about that. Run Riot is kind of a weird Def Leppard-y song, but I really like it. I already said how much I love Hysteria. And then I've posted this before on Instagram a number of times. There's a song called Love and Affection, which is the last song on it. And it is an absolute wonderful song. I love this album. It takes me back to driving around when I bought the cassette. Again, we're sitting here, both of us on our laptops, where we can bring up Spotify instantaneously. You couldn't. I had to go buy that cassette, pop that thing in that awful car's stereo, and it was the best moment. It was the best. There's something to be said for the waiting for it, and that was awesome. That's my number 5.
Yeah, I hope that just goes to show what a good year I believe this was, because that didn't make my top 10. So my number 4 is Electric by the Cult. For a long time it was number 2. Recently I moved it down slightly. It's not my favorite Cold album. Sonic Temple, Love, the Pink album, those are some of my favorites. Electric's right up there. But if you don't know anything about the Cult, just pop it in, play it, hit play, whatever. Love Removal Machine, Wildflower's a big one that they always play in concert. Peace Dog's one of my favorites. And it goes on. You've not heard of these. Zap City was in a movie soundtrack, but it's just good music. They're just really good. They're the best band you've never heard of.
I mentioned it earlier. I already had Sonic Temple, which came out 89.
Yeah.
I was into that and listened to it and liked it, and I'm glad that you guys are fans of them, because that made me be more cognizant of going back and listening to other stuff. Yes, they're definitely a good band, and if you haven't listened to them and even if it's not your thing, give it a shot for 2 seconds, and if you don't like it, move along. But yeah, definitely good, and understandably on your list where it was. My number 4 was already on your list. We talked about Momentary Lapse of Reason. Going off of what you said, I'm not a Roger Waters fan. I don't like Roger Waters. I love David Gilmour. David Gilmour is one of my favorite artists, whether it's Pink Floyd or his solo stuff ever. I love that guy. He's one of my favorite guitar players ever. I love my favorite Pink Floyd songs are the ones that he sings. So when he was able to put out this album in the fall of 87, so good. It's a surprise. I almost felt bad that I put it at 4 because of how much I loved them, but it's really good. But it does have some songs that I will skip. It's got, number one, the first song, Signs of Life, is like the sound of a microphone recording a boat rocking in water. I mean, it's obviously leading into Learning to Fly. Yeah. But I mean, that's a skip.
Pink Floyd can be artsy fartsy.
Yeah, which is, and I like it. But I mean, that's a ding. Like, there's no artsy fartsy on Dark Side of the Moon,
right?
Or Wish You Were Here, or The Wall.
Yeah, there's
a little, but I mean,
but it fits. I mean,
but I mean, it's also,
and I don't mind it.
It's also a soundtrack of a movie too. Like, it's going to that too.
Yeah.
But Learning to Fly, I'm not a big The Dogs of War fan. One Slip was great. You mentioned On the Turning Away, which is wonderful. And then the ones like from 6 through 9, a lot of them are instrumental type things. But like number 9, Terminal Frost, was something me and my buddies listened to a lot. And then Sorrow is the last song on it, which is a great song and even better live if you listen to The Delicate Sound of Thunder or Pulse. If you go back and listen to that on those, it's really good. But yeah, Momentary Lapse of Reason, I had it on cassette during a time in my life where I was going through some high school things that hurt your heart, and you listen to it a lot during that. And I remember that. I remember specifically where I was driving listening to it. So I will always remember that, even though it doesn't matter anymore. But
great,
your teenage brain and heart still remember those things. So,
all right. So I'm going to do number 3.
Top 3.
Top 3, and I'm going to start by defending my choice. Here we go. I don't think that compilation or live or certain things shouldn't count when you're picking albums. There's great movie soundtracks, like Forrest Gump's soundtrack, but that is just a collection of all these great songs from the era.
Yes.
Because that didn't make my short list was the Good Morning Vietnam soundtrack. Great soundtrack, but I feel guilty counting it. But my number 3 is the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. And it's one of the greatest selling albums of all time. Tony just rolled his eyes and about died.
The podcast.
So what's funny is I've probably seen Dirty Dancing second most of any movie ever, because one summer Chad and I watched it every day. We put it in every day no matter what we were doing. It was kind of a joke because we had done it with Purple Rain either the year before or 2 years before. And so I've seen... Me, Spencer, and Chad have seen Dirty Dancing into the hundreds of times, because sometimes we'd watch it twice in a day. But there are original songs on there, and when they put out this extended version of it, I don't know. Takes me back to a place in time. Tony's going to light me up and make fun of me, and I don't care. So if you're a Dirty Dancing soundtrack fan, there you go.
My wife is so proud of you.
Good.
And that's not a compliment.
I'm trying to impress.
Not a compliment.
Trying to impress the ladies.
Right. Yep. I've never listened to that one time the whole way through.
Well, way to give it a chance.
Right. Well,
good.
And I didn't do that in 1987 when I was 15, and I ain't gonna do her at 53.
You didn't do it with Guns N' Roses, and you regretted it.
Well, but that I guarantee you that the Dirty Dancing soundtrack is not Guns N' Roses. Good try, though. I like that angle.
Thank you.
That ain't going to work on this old man.
Anyway, great album.
Because again, well, we're not going to argue about, like...
Yeah, because you'd be wrong.
Well, no, I wouldn't
be. That'd be tough for you.
Like, compilations and soundtracks. Yeah. I mean, you can say Purple Rain's a soundtrack, but it's not a soundtrack. It's not songs that had been released before.
But that's what I mean. It was written for a movie. Like, you take like the Crow soundtrack. You reach out to a bunch of different bands and you say, write a song for this movie. Gone in
but
60
that's
seconds.
not entirely true because Big Empty is on that from
Okay,
Stone Temple Pilots, and that's on another album already.
But maybe half and half.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I just right.
And
I mean,
usually
again,
they're new.
Those are hills to die on that I would have died on. I would put it in a senior will 35 years ago. I won't do it today. You're welcome to have whatever you want on your list.
Well, I do.
Even if it's wrong.
So
number 3 for me, you already had it. I don't care what they name the album. White Snake's album that came out in 1987. Get out.
it's a good one.
9 in a row. 9 in a row. I bought it the day before the Science Club field trip. Trent Robertson stayed all night with me that night. We got up and drove to school, got on the bus to go to Chicago on the Science Club trip. Played that thing on a Walkman with an aux cord splitter. Like, we're talking high tech.
Yep.
In March, April 1987.
I went on that field trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Box of Star Crunch from Little Debbie. I remember this like it was this is how big a loser I am. I can't do math, but I just told you 7 things that happened in March or April of 1987 that you should remember. Every time I walk by them Star Crunch at Walmart.
Find X. Nope,
every
can't
time-
do it.
Right.
I don't know
X
what
plus
X
Y
is.
equals Star Crunch.
I find it in the alphabet sometimes,
I'm telling
but
you,
I
right.
know what happened
Right.
on the Science
I'm
Club
just-
field trip.
I'm telling you. I just loved it. And it's not
Yeah,
even
it's
all,
a
it's
great
not even
album.
all about Here I Go Again or Is This Love? Although I do remember Is This Love being played at a dance the following fall. Oh, you're all like in tears because you ain't with the girl you're wanting to be with. And I think of that every time I hear that song. Still of the Night is so good. And the ones you named, and I didn't bring it up. I didn't bring it up real quick, but you named some of those other ones that are just so good, and they were not hits. I just named the hits, but Crying in the Rain, Bad Boys,
Yep.
Give Me All Your Love Tonight. Are you?
Give Me All
are
Your
you
Love. That
kid-
was
are you kidding
awesome.
me?
Yep.
Children of the Night, Straight for the Heart, and Don't Turn Away. The last 2, which I think the last one, number 11, I'm not sure it was on it originally. It came out April 7th. Is what Spotify's saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, we know when the Science Club trip was. It must have been April 8th or something because, but I love that album. I've loved that album since it came out. That's a take you back, man. That's take you back.
I bought the 20th anniversary edition on vinyl, so it's 4 records, and some of them are different versions of them because different albums got released in Europe than it did in North America, and so there were some different things, but that's one that's got some play on my record player in the last couple of years. But all 3 of them. Fun fact: the 3 Whitesnake albums that I have in the '80s, they all appear at number 5 in their respective year.
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
Well,
Yeah,
and
nuts.
again, I had a discussion with a friend of mine about, some of our list is not necessarily what we think is the greatest because that would go back to the Whitney discussion. But you're tied. I mean, when I put Slide It In on my 84 list, a lot of people might not know what that is, or Dokken or whatever. 'Cause
Right.
some of it's regional or whatever you had your hands on. This Whitesnake album, though, it's pretty well known.
Yeah.
I mean, there were hits. Tawny Kitaen partly responsible for that. So you're number 2.
My number 2 is another compilation, but it's written for the album or done for the album. A Very Special Christmas with various rock and roll artists. It's got Santa Claus is Coming to Town, the Pointer Sisters. It's got the Eurythmics. It's got Whitney Houston. It's got Bruce Springsteen's Merry Christmas Baby and the Pretenders, John Cougar Mellencamp, Sting, Run DMC, U2, Madonna, Bob Seger's Little Drummer Boys. One of the best Christmas songs of all time. Bryan Adams, Bon Jovi, Stevie Nicks. It's an incredible album.
100% true.
And if it doesn't follow the rules, I apologize, but it's number 2 on my list. It's my go-to album at Christmas time. So I think it's the best Christmas album ever.
Well, it has a lot of different songs that are on I have a playlist for that time of year, and there's a lot of the songs that are on that are on it. Yeah, you're right. It's definitely a good album. Yep. It does have a lot of, because that's Do They Know It's Christmas After All? Is that on that?
No,
It's not?
nope, that's
That's
Band-Aid.
the Band-Aid one, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was around the time that We Are the World came out
Yeah,
in
Bob
80.
Geldof was, yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
this just when they I don't know. I've got Christmas. I love Christmas music. I've got Rat Pack stuff, Elvis Presley, Bing Crosby, all kinds of stuff. Nothing compares. This album just has so many of my favorite artists from this time period, and they do a great job on.
Well, my dear friend Frank Sinatra would like to raise a Jack Daniel's glass at you and say, "Wait a minute," because those are the ones I had were all Sinatra. I have back when we lived in Macomb, I had like 3 or 4 Sinatra Christmas albums. Sinatra
Can't go
he could
wrong.
do some Christmas albums.
Yeah, I'm not bad talking him.
Okay, I'll let you put that on there. 'Cause
Thanks.
It's my podcast. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's on your list. My number 2 is astonishing to me how low it was on yours. That Joshua Tree, man. It starts out. It has 11 tracks on it, just like the one before the White Snake did, and the first 8 are just masterpieces. Where the Streets Have No Name. Still haven't found what I'm looking for.
With or without you, like that to
Bullet,
me.
and then the Blue Sky.
See,
Running to Stand Still.
yeah.
Red Hill Mining Town, In God's Country. Like, okay, the next 5 and 6 kind of went back a little bit, and then In God's Country, that's a great song. Trip Through Your Wires. Again, here's what happens. You've heard Where the Streets Have No Name a billion times on the radio. Still haven't found what I'm looking for on the radio. MTV over and over, and With or Without You. That's what's funny. Is
Every
those-
TV show that ever
those
wanted to.
3 were all over wherever you went, and yet I'll still never skip them. I just love those songs. They're good
Yep.
songs. When you said that that's their best album, it's not close. Octoon Baby, which was the next one in '91, fantastic year, is close. But this is just, like I said, 8 songs in a row, and I'm not even like being a fanboy about it. The first 8 songs are that good.
That's where I'm different. Just the first 3 are amazing to me, and the rest of it's good. I just love the first 3.
Right. Well, here we are.
So we're
At
doing the short
number one.
list.
We're at number 1.
Don't we do short list?
No, we'll do it.
we do short list before you do one.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, you do.
No, we'll just
You watch stuff on YouTube.
We'll just throw them out. I'm not. Yeah, I've watched on YouTube.
Fine.
My own podcast.
Yeah, your own
on YouTube.
podcast.
Yeah.
Fine.
Got
All
my
right,
name
so
on
number
it.
1, it's going to be a shocker, but Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. And embarrassingly enough, I was too set in my ways back in the day to love them immediately, although they were pretty... they weren't the best examples in the world. I don't know. I think I was put off by them at first. But the first song that I heard that I really liked was My Michelle. Because I hard hated them and wouldn't even give them a chance. But I heard My Michelle, and I'm like, wow, that's a really good song, and that's not even one of the ones that I've heard about. So I start playing the album, and then we decide we're going to go see Guns N' Roses in 1991. Me, Lance, Spence. Gosh, somebody else went. Maybe Ray Manning. Anyway, we start listening to it more and more. That's got 12 songs on it. I love 10 of them. Out to Get Me and Anything Goes, I don't like that much, but I don't hate them. I don't skip them. If you know me, you know that Rocket Queen's in my top 25 songs of all time. It's probably in my top 10. Any song that's 2 songs in one, which Rocket Queen is one of those songs that you listen to it and you go, why didn't you make... Because both halves of the song are amazing. And I'm like, why didn't you make 2 songs out of it? And that's what makes songs like November Rain, like Rocket Queen, that sets them apart. So
It's not to throw Stairway to Heaven out, but the same kind of thing where it's 2 songs in one.
I was drawing a blank on doing some other songs
Even
that are like
Estranged,
that.
Like I love Estranged, maybe one of my favorite
Oh, yeah.
Guns N' Roses songs. That's
Yeah.
that same category, right?
Yeah. Yep. they're just God, they're just talented top to bottom. Axl Rose, a great front man, and Slash is just an unbelievable guitar player. And I love the song "Welcome to the Jungle," obviously a lot more than Tony, but Paradise City and "Sweet Child of Mine." I don't have to list what songs are on there. If you don't know, you should listen to it. If you do know, I'm just telling you what you already know. It's an unbelievable album.
Yeah, we talked about it. I was wrong, and I love it. I love that album. It's terrific. So many good songs, and even the ones that aren't hits. Like, there's not a lot of skips on there for me. Well, so I guess my number one, if you were listening and kind of keeping score in your head, I don't know if I would have thought of it at the time, but like NXS Kick is my number one album in 1987.
It's a really good album.
Because it has 12 songs on it, and I like every one of them. There's not a single one of them, even the ones that weren't hits, that I don't like. I listened back to it yesterday, and I'm just like, I like it that much. Tiny Daggers, Calling All Nations, Kick, Wildlife. I'm naming the ones that weren't the hits, and I like them. I love that album. It is such a good album. Michael Hutchinson's voice is amazing, or was amazing. I love that album. It is. I listened to it recently, within the last 2 or 3 months, and I'm like, damn it, it really is that good. It's not just those. It's not just New Sensation, Devil Inside, Need You Tonight. It's not just those. Never Tear Us Apart was the homecoming, or was like the Sweetheart Dance theme. I think it was the Sweetheart Dance theme.
Oh yeah,
I think it was one of the years. Whether it was that year or the following year. Well, let's say this: I didn't have a sweetheart or a date to the dance, and I remember that song. That song that would have been around the time I was really crushing on my now wife of 31 years, and we weren't dating. And I remember that album as having pieces and parts that I liked, and now looking back on it all these years later, it's my number one. And it's ahead of Pink Floyd, it's ahead of the Joshua Tree, it's ahead of that White Snake album,
Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, I mean, it's ahead of some things that you're like, really?
Yeah.
And I can say, yeah, really, I really, really love that album. I think if it's one of those that if you've not listened to the others, I know we talked about this in 82 when we talked about 82. Talk about it in sports. You got Shaq and Kobe. You need your others to carry their weight.
Mm-hmm.
The others on that album, in my opinion, carry
Rick
weight.
Fox, Robert Ory.
Yeah,
those songs are on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gary Fisher.
Yeah.
You got to have those.
I can't see putting it ahead of Appetite for Destruction, but mad respect to that album.
Yeah,
it's a really good year.
It is. I mean, and that's what I mean. Like, I honestly could say the top 7 albums on my list are definitely in the discussion of my favorite albums of all time. Just, I'm not saying top 20. I just mean they would be in a pool. If I was making a pool of ones to pick from, those 7 would be on that set, would be in that list.
I am a little surprised that my short list only has one album that was in your top 10, but are you ready for short list?
Yeah.
All right, so I know we're supposed to have 5, but I don't give a damn about your stupid rules, so I'm doing 6 because I can't leave White Lion's Pride out because that was a really good album. Mm-hmm. It was like White Snake Light for me. That White Snake album was great. The White Lion album, this all kind of ran together because there's Wait's on
when
there.
The Children Cry, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to bring it back up because now that you said that, it made me think twice about
There's no way I'm wrong.
Yeah. When the Children Cry, Wait, Tell Me, Lonely Nights, Don't Give Up, Sweet Little Loving. It was a really good album. We're going back and forth. You just want to hear my dad don't.
I never had a chance to love you.
Okay. I didn't know White Lion was going to show up today.
The album cover's not bad, yeah.
No. Bruce Springsteen's Tunnel of Love, not his best album. It's got Brilliant Disguise on it and a couple others. Mm-hmm. Love Brilliant Disguise. Cher decided to do a self-titled album in the middle of her career and annoy the crap out of me. That's a really good album. It's got I Found Someone, We All Sleep Alone, Bang Bang on it. I'm a Cher fan. Lonesome Jubilee, John Mellencamp, decent album, not his best.
Bomb.
Yep, Cherry Bomb,
Check it
so
out.
good. Rock, Paper, and Fire, wasn't that on there? Maybe.
I don't remember. I looked yesterday, but I don't remember that. I don't remember. I could be wrong.
Paper and Fire.
Paper and Fire.
Yep, which is not one of my favorites, but... and then Hysteria, Def Leppard, and Permanent Vacation, Aerosmith were just... Both of those albums were in my top 10, and I kept moving stuff around, and they ended up right outside of the top 10.
Okay, so I'm unprepared for this. So here's what I'm doing. I'm looking at my spreadsheet. I'm going to throw some things out that I would have even considered. If you've ever listened to The Cure, you know they have put a double album out that year called Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. It's got Just Like Heaven. It's got Why Can't I Be You?
Yeah, it sounds horrible.
Yeah, those are good songs. Girls, Girls, Girls from Motley Crue came out that year.
Ooh.
And you know, Motley Crue, kind of like AC/DC in some ways. It's like cotton candy. You don't want to have it every day, but when you have it, you're like, oh, I like cotton candy.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I like that one. I'm not the biggest fan of Richard Marx as a, nothing against Richard Marx, I guess, but he has 3 big hits on that.
Is that the one that's got I Ain't Missing You?
That's John Waite.
Wait, oh. Yep, you're right. He's the guy that was in Bad English.
I'm always right.
Yeah.
Should have known better.
Okay. Yeah.
Endless Summer Nights.
Oh, yeah, that's a good tune.
Hold On to the Nights. Yeah, those were lovey songs. I don't know.
You didn't have Kiss Crazy Nights on your short list?
It's on my list to look at. I love that song. I don't know if the rest of it's that great. You ever heard of John Hyatt, Bring the Family? That's a good.
No.
Got a great song on it that you know that you didn't know that it's who that is. Go John Hyatt here.
Did you have Garage Days on your
Have
list?
a Little Faith in Me. Remember that song?
Uh-uh.
Okay. Well, it wasn't on that Christmas thing.
Once Bitten, Great White came out that year.
Yeah.
There's another White group
Right,
all in that year. Great White, White Lion, White Snake.
Let's see. It's funny, when we talked about this the other day, you sent me a screenshot of your dash of your car.
Yeah.
And it was the outfield. And it was from that year. It was the outfield's year. Bangin'.
Yeah.
Which was shoulda.
Should have known better. No. God dang it. What did I send you? I don't have my phone out here. Anyway.
I'll look real quick. Since You've Been Gone.
Yes.
Since You've Been Gone.
That song.
That is a great song, and it's the only song on that
But
album.
I looked that album, and I'm
it's
like,
not
the
good.
rest of the
But
album.
That album.
They only had one outfielder
Right.
that year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Just playing with one guy
And
left.
The other guys had
Fat kid
the
with
other
a
guys
small
were
glove.
Right, they were sitting on the ground with their popcorn and their glove on their head, yeah.
Looking through the holes in their
Right,
glove,
yeah, that's
making a dirt pile.
That's what that was. Terrence Trent D'Arby, who has since changed his name that year that album came out.
What did he
That song,
change his
Wishing
name
Well?
to?
I don't know.
Something easier to say.
Right. The Introducing the Hard Line, according to Terrence Trent D'Arby, was the name of the album. I loved that song.
Hope he changed the name of that album.
You and I, you don't like Michael Jackson as much as I do, but Michael Jackson's Bad was that year.
Oh,
And it has some good hits on it. You were right about Permanent Vacation. I'm not a big fan of Dude Looks Like a Lady.
Or Ragdoll.
But I liked.
I do like, but again,
Ragdoll somehow all of a sudden I hated it back then.
But wasn't Angel on that album too?
Yeah.
Yeah. God, if Matt
Don't go
Ulmer, if you're
there.
listening to this, don't start crying.
I can't believe it.
You
You
said
didn't
it.
put
I
it
didn't. You said it. I didn't. Good Depeche Mode album that year. You're right about Bruce Springsteen. Sting's second solo album was that year very good. I'll throw out 2 more guitar players. Joe Satriani had an album called Surfing with the Alien.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of really good instrumental. And then I love Carlos Santana. I love Carlos Santana.
Yeah.
He put an album out called Blues for Salvador. There's 2 songs. The title track is the last song on it, which is amazing. And then, remember the movie Desperado?
Yep.
Do you remember the scene with Antonio Banderas
Yeah.
and Salma Hayek?
Yeah.
There's a song called Bella that's instrumental on that album. It's a great guitar song. So George Harrison, Cloud 9, he kind of came back. That's what I got my mind set on.
I got my mind set on you. I had that 45.
That was there. So anyway,
Ooh, that dates me.
that is a really, really good year.
Quality year.
A year with music, with a lot of music that really means a lot to us. Some of our favorite albums of all time. We were having a discussion a minute ago about an earlier year in the 80s that we completely disagree on, but I think we can agree that 1987, pretty darn good year.
Yeah.
A lot of music that played a big part in our life, and we shouted out a bunch of different people from 87 who graduated from VIT in 87 that we have a relationship with and helped make our childhood fun. And
yeah, so if you're listening and you agree or disagree or you want to send us a message,
please
what
comment.
you think, let us know if we missed something or something that you thought was good. Would love to hear from you.
Yeah, please comment. We had some on the last one we did and really enjoyed. Don't think to yourself, "Wow, they don't care what I think." We might not, but we'd at least like to hear it. So anyway,
Yep.
it's been fun. We'll pick another year one of these days. We need to get around to 91 one of these days. Boy, that'll take a long time.
I haven't even done 91. We got to finish the 80s.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll finish the 80s. Maybe, why don't we decide what year we do next? We talked about doing 88. We should be able to do that soon because we already have those lists.
I can do any of them.
All right.
Let's go make some salsa.
All right. Thanks for listening. Take care. Hope you enjoyed it. Always remember, no matter what ding-dongs around you say, life is good.
Amen.